Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel. And this is my first impressions look on the Kobe 8. No, this is not the Kobe 8. This is called, this is a brand new Chinese company and it's called Serious Player Only. And this shoe is called the Player 1, right? So this shoe is going for $158, so basically 160 bucks, which is pretty pricey, but they are a new company, right? So I guess it is understandable, all right? It costs are a little bit higher, especially if you're just starting and they probably don't have everything kind of like set up for making shoes. But yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Kobe 8, right? As far as the aesthetics go, and it has a drop-in midsole and all that, and the carbon fiber, which we'll get into. But yeah, let's get it started off with the Tracciones. In this colorway, we have a solid yellow rubber outsole, and it's kind of like a mix of herringbone and also like a dotted line going along with the herringbone, right? And so as far as my first impressions go on my wood floors, the bite is really good, and there is a nice loud high-pitched squeak, which of course has nothing to do with performance, but I like to have a nice loud squeak in my ball shoes, so that's always nice to see and always nice to hear. So yeah, it feels really nice so far. As far as the dust pickup though, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be terrible, right? These dotted lines are separated, so it doesn't seem like it's gonna pick up and hold dirt or debris that well, right? But the durability seems very bad, right? See, the rubber is actually really soft, the grooves are super thin, and also not that deep, right? And also it's a pretty expensive shoe, so playing on an outdoor court probably isn't the best option, but of course it should hold up on an indoor court. There's this line going through the forefoot and midfoot, and then here in the heel we have the logo, and also here in the middle of the outsole we have carbon fiber, right? So it's a carbon fiber midfoot chain plate. It's kind of weird though, because this is kind of like glossy, it's a shiny finish, and then here on the bottom it's like a matte or a flat finish. That's kind of weird, but it's pretty much the exact same as the Kobe 8. Look at that, exact same. It's pretty much identical, right? So which of course is not a terrible thing, but the traction right now is feeling so good so far. I really like it. And then moving on to the heel to toe transition, so it feels all right. So it reminds me a lot of the old school Kobe's, right? So I guess here in the Kobe 8 it's a little bit better because this is actually foam, but it's still pretty stiff. Same thing here in the Kobe mentalities, but here in the Player 1s we actually have just rubber. There's no midsole, so it's actually kind of clunky, right? And it's not the most rounded. I mean, there's a little bit of a rounded shape, right? But I feel like it's gonna be kind of clunky here in the heel, right? Not terrible, but I don't like this like edge shape, and there's no compression from the actual midsole because there is no midsole, right? And then here in the forefoot though, we have a very nice curve shape which feels very nice, and then we have very good forefoot flex because I guess the carbon fiber midfoot chain, it's just in the midfoot. It doesn't seem like it extends here into the forefoot at all because of how much flex there is in the forefoot. So overall it feels pretty nice. It reminds me actually a lot of the Kobe 9, but like I said, it just feels a little clunky here in the heel. And now moving on to the cushioning setup. So we have a drop-in midsole, a replaceable midsole. And of course, Li Ning said that as well with the 808s, right? The 808s, I really like playing in those. They said it's a replaceable midsole as well, but they don't really sell the midsole separately, right? So, you know, if the cushion gets a little bottomed out or something like that, and you want a fresh cushion, you can't really buy a new one, you know what I mean? So I wonder if Serious Player Only will do that, you know, have an actual replaceable midsole. That would be great. It'll be great for the consumer, not for the business, because, you know, the longevity of the shoe does increase if you get a new cushion. But anyways, so we have different foams here, right? So the actual midsole is called Evanlon or Evanlon, right? It says right here. It actually feels very similar to Lunarlon, which isn't a good thing, I guess. I mean, okay, so it's a good thing because Lunarlon does feel good at first, right? There's nice compression right underneath your foot, it's soft. But the Lunarlon bottoms out very quickly, so hopefully, you know, just like in the mentalities, right? And also the Kobe 8s, it doesn't bottom out, right? I don't remember, is the mentality Lunarlon? I'm not 100% sure. Does it say? Yeah, no, yeah, it says Lunarlon in the mentality, so Yeah, so it feels very similar in that, right? The step-in cover is actually pretty nice because your foot is right on top of the foam, right? But the texture isn't as sticky. I had the Kobe 8 and also the Player 1 on at the same time, and the Kobe 8 gripped my foot and my sock a little bit better. You know, it's not a huge deal, but it's just something that I noticed. Also, of course, another advantage of having a drop-in midsole is the sidewall for lateral containment. And also here on the bottom, we have a mix of foams, right? So they're calling this gum, right? And then around that, it looks more like a boost, right? It's like a thermoplastic probably, and they heat welded it together just like boost, and they're calling it popcorn, which is a pretty interesting name. But it is bottom loaded, right? So that's probably for a little bit more impact protection, right? But overall, it feels really nice. Right now, it's not as good for court feel as like the other Kobe's, right? Like the Kobe 8, the Kobe Mentalities, the Kobe 9. Maybe because the Lunarlon is bottomed out, right? But it feels a little bit higher up off the ground, which of course is not a bad thing because the impact protection in the Kobe 8s and the Kobe Mentalities was not good. Once you bottomed out the cushion and you did hard impacts, especially on heel strikes, your foot just bottomed out that cushion and you can feel the floor, right? So that definitely does hurt. So here in the Player 1, it feels a little bit thicker, even though it's still really low to the ground, right? The Kobe's are just really low, so I do like how they made it a little bit thicker, right? So step-in coverage is pretty nice. Hopefully impact protection stays pretty damn good. Overall comfort's great. I do like the extra grip that you get. You know, there is a little texture on here as well. So the overall cushioning setup does feel nice. And then underneath that though, we have another insole, but I don't really think you need it. It looks a little bit like Boost, right? And then underneath that we have just the rubber, right? So the cushioning setup overall is still nice. We'll have yet to see on the impact protection. And now moving on to the material. So they're calling this Nerve Knit. So that's a pretty interesting name, but it kind of reminds me of Flyknit just a tiny bit. And it's just made up of a lot of string, right? And it's just like woven together. And there's, here in the toe box, we have this black string kind of going across. And then on the lateral and medial side, we have a whole bunch of strands going through. It's kind of like crisscrossing, right? I do like the overall pattern. It looks great. And overall though, it's really thin, right? It's really thin. It's very minimal feeling on foot, especially here in the forefoot. And conforms to your foot very well. It feels also pretty damn supportive. Not the most supportive material, however, but it doesn't feel bad. And then here in the tip of the toe, we do have some fuse for extra added durability, but it also extends here on the lateral and medial side of the shoe, so that's nice. It stays extremely thin here in the midfoot. And then for the tongue, we have very minimal padding, and it's a half booty construction tongue, but then it kind of goes like here. Right, most modern like half booty construction tongue kind of like come into this part, like more in the midfoot. But here in the Player 1, it kind of goes a little bit more into the forefoot, which is a pretty interesting design, but it's still kind of like a half booty construction. You know, gives you a better overall one-to-one fit and kind of like keeps the tongue in place, right? And then here in the ankle area, we have very minimal padding. So the overall material feels really nice on foot. I love it because it's super minimal, and that's just like my preference in basketball shoes. If you want like a cozy, kind of like thick padding and material, of course this definitely is not the best option, but if you want something minimal, it feels great so far. Also here in the heel, right, look at that. Look at that heel counter. The plastic external heel counter is pretty much identical in design. So, and also there's kind of like this like synthetic material in the back as well, and also on the tongue. Right, so there's the material there. Moving on to the fit, I went true to size and it fits me really snug. So lengthwise is actually a little short, which is weird. I usually like a very snug fit lengthwise, but I feel like this is even a little too short for me. So for most people, I would suggest going up half a size. Also, it's very narrow, right? My pinky toe is being squeezed right here, and it doesn't feel too good. And also here in the toe box, it's not super snug, however, here in the toe box. It's not super roomy, it's not super snug, so it's all right here in the toe box. So overall, it fits me pretty well. I don't mind it that much, but we'll have yet to see when I play in it. Hopefully it doesn't hurt my feet from it being too narrow or like a little short. But for most people, like I said, I would suggest going up half a size. If you have a wide foot, probably go up a full size, right? Alright, moving on to the support and lockdown, I feel like it's going to be overall really good, right? So like I said, for lateral containment, from the drop-in midsole, we have that sidewall, right? And then here in the forefoot, we have the rubber coming up, acting as a sidewall too, and this fuse material, right? And overall, like this fuse, it feels pretty stiff, right? And then here in the midfoot, the rubber comes up a little bit. And I guess like this material overall isn't super supportive though, right? I mean, it is supportive as in like it doesn't stretch that much, but I feel like it'll roll over on itself a little bit, right? And of course, here in the heel, we have this heel counter. So I feel like lateral containment is going to be very good. And then for lateral stability, it's probably going to be good as well. There is a little bit of an outrigger, right? The outsole protrudes out a little bit here on the lateral side in the forefoot. And it's a very low to the ground wide base. So lateral stability feels like it's going to be very good. Moving on to the weight, which is something that I'm super duper curious about, right? So the Kobe 8s, if you guys didn't know, is the lightest shoe that I've ever weighed on this channel, like the lightest basketball shoe. And it's ridiculously light. It's like 8.43 ounces. That's even lighter than some running shoes, you know what I mean? Like the Ultra Boost is like 11 ounces. So I'm guessing it feels a little bit heavier than the Kobe 8s, but I'm guessing like 9-10 ounces. Ooh, okay, so 10.02 ounces. Let's check the other pair. 10.34 ounces. So yeah, still extremely light. 10 ounces. 10.3 is extremely light. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. Let's check the Kobe. These are super light too. Yeah, 8.4 ounces. So Nike and Kobe were doing something different, right? A whole 2 ounces. I mean, 2 ounces is a good amount, right? It still feels extremely minimal and lightweight on foot, and I feel like it's gonna be very responsive because the traction feels really good so far. Feels low to the ground. It fits me pretty damn good so far. So I'm liking how the shoe feels overall on foot, and it reminds me a lot of the Kobe 8. Moving on to the aesthetics, I like it. I mean, if this shoe had a swoosh on it, I mean, it would be pretty much the reincarnation of the Kobe 8, right? And I really like how it looks. This material looks great. I love the strands. It reminds me a lot of like Flywire. So yeah, overall, I do like the aesthetics. It does look a little plain though because there's no like logo, right? But overall, I do like the silhouette. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yes, this is pretty much the reincarnation of the Kobe 8. Right? The Kobe 8 is one of my favorite basketball shoes of all time. I really like playing in the Kobe 8s. The only downside is the impact protection, right? So hopefully the Player 1 lives up to that hype because they kind of copied the design, a lot of the design of the Kobe 8, Kobe mentalities, Kobe 9, right? All that put together, and that's this shoe. And the cushion's feeling a little bit better so far than the Kobe 8s and the Kobe mentalities. The traction is feeling really good. It's not as light, but it's still an extremely light shoe. So I have very high hopes for this, and I'm very excited to put it to the test on the court. So my first impressions of this shoe are very good so far. But anyways, that about wraps it up. Again, if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave a link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.